Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We are getting right into it. If you watched the last video, we finished off gutting the front end of this car, getting it ready for the installation of the new K-member, which I've got placed under the car right now. So I'm going to go ahead and support the new K-member so that I can go ahead and install it. And then once I do that, we're actually going to leave this car alone and move on to, taking everything off of this car so that we can install it onto this car. So yeah, let's get into it. Alrighty, K-member is installed. That is pretty sick. I am stoked on that. So yeah, now we can leave this car alone for a little while and start working on this thing. So let's go ahead and get it up in the air and start taking the wheels off. Alright guys, car is up in the air, wheels are off. It's on jack stands. So yeah, if you guys saw the last video, this one's going to be very similar in the sense of order of disassembly. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and start with the calipers and rotors. Alright guys, it's been a couple days since that last clip. I've been super busy, but we're gonna get right back to it. So yeah, let's go ahead and start taking the brakes off this car. Alrighty, went ahead and removed the spacers, calipers, and rotors. So now you can really see what where the money is in this car. Really, it's in the coilovers and the angle kit. I'm in love with this. Honestly, it's just a part of my car that makes me go like, dang, this thing is like a FD car, but yeah, obviously tis not. But alrighty, yeah, now I think the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and start loosening everything without actually removing anything. So that way, like I did before, it doesn't really fight me as much when I do that. So, alright, loosening time. Alrighty guys, so I've run into a bit of an issue. So I was trying to get everything loose here on the outer tie rod on the passenger side, and I got this nut removed, in the sense of loosened. And once you do that, this should spin freely and just come out. But this one, for some reason, is stuck to my inner tie rod. And as you can see, I have been trying furiously to grab onto it with anything and everything that I can, including that vise, just to see if I can get enough grip to get this thing off, because it shouldn't be that bad. It came off super easy on the other side, just literally like I didn't have to try, just with my hand. So yeah, the good news is they sell a tool apparently that holds on to that, so hopefully I haven't messed it up beyond being able to grip, with that tool. So I have a couple other errands to run. I'm gonna go out and grab that tool along with all the other things I need, but I might be done working on the car for today. But all right, we'll get back to it. Alrighty guys, it's the next day, and luckily I have good news. My boy Ben from here in Sebring, who works at O'Reilly's, told me that they've got a tool that he was able to order for me, and that'll be here tomorrow. So in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and start transferring everything over from the driver's side, because I don't need the tool for that. So let's get on to it. Alright guys, sorry it's a little hard to see. That's why I don't like working in here at night, but yeah, I've got the lower control arm removed and the knuckle, because I decided to take them off as one piece, and I've got them laid out over there. Now I'm going to remove the coilover from this side, and then I'll be able to install the coilover and install everything the same way I took it apart. Alright, coilover is out and installed on this car. So yeah, now I'm going to go ahead and install the knuckle onto the coilover, and then the lower control arm onto the K-member. Alright guys, it is pretty dark over here, but as you can see, I've got everything installed on the driver's side, except for the steering stuff, because I don't have the power steering rack installed yet. I'm going to wait until I do the other side, because it's hard to get those bolts in with the steering rack installed. But yeah, nothing is torqued down yet, because everything on here has torque specs, and I want to actually respect those, so I'm going to take some time to look up the instructions before I actually do final torque. But yeah guys, it's getting pretty late, and I already don't like working past when the sun goes down, so that feels like a good stopping point for tonight. So we'll get back after it tomorrow once I pick up that tool and I get out of work. So see you tomorrow. Alrighty guys, it is the next day. I went ahead and got this tool, and it is way too big, like not even close. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I'll get back at you once I figure it out. Well, I can't believe it myself. I'm just grateful that it's true. I tried again with the vice grips. I guess I was able to get them a little tighter this time than before, and with that I was able to get it loose. Man, it was very difficult. I don't understand how I could have gotten like that, especially when the other side was so easy, but whatever, we got it. So we can go ahead and actually move on with this side. However, since I have the steering rack undone on this side, which you need to do to be able to take out or install that bolt right there for the lower control arm, I'm going to take advantage of the fact that this side is undone already, and I'm going to go ahead and install the stock stuff on this car. So we're actually going to do that first. Alright guys, I'm running into a bit of an issue. So the Scotty D angle kit has bushings that are like spacers for this gap and this gap, and it makes the gap like maybe a quarter of an inch thinner, you know what I mean, once you actually torque everything down. So now this distance is too thin for me to actually get the stock ones back in there. So I was just trying to like hammer it in there and stuff like that, but I just realized I think I can just hammer these gaps a little bit wider with a metal hammer, and should work fine. So I'm gonna try that. Alright guys, it took me like an hour to do it, but the lower control arm is bolted in. It's not torqued down yet, just in case, but yeah, that was a mission. Yeah guys, that took way longer than expected, so I think I'm gonna call it for tonight. We'll get back after it tomorrow. One other thing is, the reason I'm kind of stopping right now too, is because I was about to try and put the stock spring in, but there is just no way to fit that thing in there without compressing it, and I can't compress it by hand. They sell a tool that like attaches to the spring, and then you can like torque it down to compress the spring, and that allows you to be able to install it easier. So I've used that before. It makes life a lot easier. I'm gonna rent one of those tomorrow, and then we'll get back to it. So catch you tomorrow. Alrighty guys, it is the next day, finally getting a chance to work in the daylight. But yeah, I went to AutoZone earlier and rented the tool that I needed, so let's give this a shot. Okay, took me the better part of like 45 minutes and a lot of patience, but I got the spring in there. So the thing is that these bolts right here this whole assembly is really long, and apparently it's like longer than the spring when it's compressed. So basically I had to find a way to be able to fit those two in there and be able to compress it enough to actually fit it in there with the bolts and still be able to remove the bolts once I was done. So yeah, alright, let's move on. Time to put in the shock. Okay, the shock is installed, and I have the lower control arm supported by the jack, so I'm using the jack to raise the lower control arm, which will raise the knuckle into the position where I can get those bolts in. So I'm doing that now. Let's go. Alright, obviously nothing is tightened down yet, but everything is installed. Well, except for the outer control arm, but you know, that's going to be easy. So yeah, now I'm going to start, tightening everything up, reinstall the power steering rack bolt on this side, and then we can start on the other side. And just like that, we are done with the driver's side. Everything is fully torqued down. I even went ahead and installed the outer tie rod for the steering and torqued that down, so the side is completely done. That side is not torqued down yet, so technically this is done as opposed to that. Well, I still need to put the rotors and brakes and stuff, but who's counting? But yeah guys, now I'm gonna start disassembling everything from this side. If you remember, I already loosened everything, so now it's just taking everything apart and installing it on that side. Alright, I've got the lower control arm removed and placed over here. So I think I'm going to do this side the same way I did the other side, which means I'm going to take off the coilover and install that first, install the knuckle onto the coilover, and then the lower control arm to the K-member. And done. Hell yeah, I am stoked. This thing is starting to look like a race car. Times 2. But yeah, so that's everything on this car other than the brakes and rotors. So now comes the most likely nightmare, that is trying to get the other stock control arm into this car. So let's get after it, I guess. Psych, I'm tired. I'm gonna do that tomorrow, so we'll catch up tomorrow. Alrighty guys, it is the next day. I went ahead and placed the stock control arm and knuckle underneath the orange car, and yeah, it's probably going to be difficult, but gotta do it, so let's get on with it. Okay, stock control arm is on. It definitely was difficult, but it was a teeny bit easier than the last time, since, you know, I learned a little bit from the last time. So now comes the next nightmare, which is trying to get the spring installed. So yeah, let's take a crack at it. Alright guys, got the spring in. Again, was not easy, but it's in there. So I've got it supported by the jack, and yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and install the stock shock, and then yeah, we can move on to tightening everything down. Alright guys, shock is in, knuckle is bolted down, and yeah, now I just gotta install the outer tie rod for the steering, torque down the bolts for the lower control arm, and then we can start putting on the brakes and rotors on this car. Okay, outer tie rod is in, everything is torqued down, so let's go ahead and get the brakes and rotors on there. Oh my god guys, it's getting dark in here. But yeah, everything is torqued down, brakes and rotors are on, so let's get the wheels on this thing and put it on the ground. And just like that, the car is on the ground. Check it out guys. Now, you may not be too stoked about it since it just looks like a stock car, and a crashed one at that, but to me, this is progress. This is work that is done and behind me. So now, as you can see, this car is ready to put in the power steering rack, but one of the things that the Speed Engineering kit came with is a new power steering shaft, which is like what comes like down from the steering wheel to the rack. The thing is that this requires a little bit of modification, and I have no idea what I'm doing, so I'm gonna need to do a little bit of research and educate myself before doing this, and I expect this to be a little bit of a project, so I'm gonna leave the installation of that to the next video, because you know we're gonna have the fabrication of that thing plus the installation of the actual rack, and then you know linking everything up and bolting everything down, getting the car on the ground. I feel like it's enough to make it its own video. So yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. That's going to be it for this video. I really hope you guys are finding this entertaining, at least a little bit. It's a lot of work for me, not only on the cars, but to film all this and to edit it. So I hope someone's enjoying it. But yeah, thanks guys very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.